it is a large language model. So it understands language inside and out, and you can feed it tons and tons of documents and it's going to spit something out. And then we can evaluate, hey, was that a good answer or is it not? Are we getting true? Are we getting false? But really, how do we get it?
As far as right now, how do you see AI search? Is that changing SEO and a lot of the strategies right now, or do you see it changing that going forward?
I do see it changing some things going forward. These are not night and day shifts, at least not. You look at the way that we do SEO at CSP. We are very much business aligned in terms of our strategies, usually revenue driven in terms of our strategies. So when we create strategies, they are in line with what makes sense for a business, what makes sense for a business to be publishing on their website. When we look at off-page and promotion, we're considering how what we do is actually impacting a business's visibility out there outside of SEO. So for us, it's not huge changes, but the way that we do SEO is fairly unique. For people that are running off of tools and checklists and are approaching SEO as a mathematical formula, for people that are not really ingrained with the marketing side of SEO and the the business alignment that should be a part of SEO, I think they're going to have more significant challenges. When we look at AI search, there was a paper that came out a little while ago, and it was a study. They looked at perplexity, and there were things like citing statistics, giving quotes from subject matter experts, optimizing for fluency and readability. So there are actual factors, and you can take that approach, but those are kind of supplementary to what you already do in SEO. When we look at like off-page factors, right? Links and link authority and link metrics. I think that's particularly relevant for Google, and Google has a lot of influence on the other search engines. But when we look specifically at AI search, things like PR can be more impactful, right? These industry roundups, these top 10 lists, having a general footprint and brand visibility may be more valuable for your AI search than traditional links are in traditional Google search.
So focusing on a major strategy that might shift is focusing towards that brand awareness and brand outreach, or kind of your brand footprint, as you called it. Are there any other strategies that are obvious that are going to shift from an SEO standpoint as we're optimizing for search versus AI search?
So this stuff is changing all the time. So it is difficult to know where it's going to go. But one change that we've seen just within the past so many months was the way the correlation that we see between AI overviews and the top ranking websites on Google. So when they first rolled out AI overviews, we actually saw that most of the AI overviews were getting, I don't want to say getting pulled from, but the sites that were being attributed and cited did not have strong overlap with the top ranking websites that were in the top 10. Now, more recently, we've seen a shift where we're seeing closer alignment between those top ranking results and the citations. So for Google, there seems to be right now a pretty strong tie-in between traditional SEO and the things that we do to be successful ranking high in Google and getting visibility in AI overviews, right? So that would say that, hey, the alignment is pretty close. So then I would just go back to, hey, you still need to shift to being marketing aligned and business aligned, because that's the future of SEO anyway. And that's how you're going to be doing what is going to work in the future versus chasing the algorithm and, chasing ranking factors. But when we look at AI search, they're not quite there yet. I mean, those signals are more simple. It seems like their data sets are smaller that they're accessing. Just like the testing that I've done, it looks like, like ChatGPT, when I'm looking at some of the search that it's doing in Bing, and when I'm trying to use it in more of a commercial intent search, like what are the top roofing companies that I should consider for A, B, and C, right? Like they're using those clients' websites as validating factors, like whether or not you even say these things. Does that make sense? Yes. If you say you were in business 10 years and that you have all these credibilities, yes, that totally makes sense. But just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. So I don't think that that AI search, really looking at like ChatGPT, they have a good way to evaluate like the trustworthiness factors and really pull from the best places to give you answers when you're using ChatGPT with that search functions. So get back to your original question, is it going to be this huge shift when it comes to AI search? It could be. I think it's going to be different, but if they're smart, they'll figure out how to replicate some of what Google has done in terms of understanding what are the actual credible sources that we should be citing and how do we provide well-rounded answers. There was one I was looking at, what are the top SEO companies? And there was this particular source that kept getting cited repeatedly to where it was really dominating the entire answer. And I went in and looked at it, and it was a company that provided SEO that did a roundup on their blog. Well, clearly there's a conflict of interest there. That's not a third-party site, right? But ChatGPT was really hanging on to that as a singular source. So is there going to be a big shift from what they're doing today? I think so. That shift is going to happen so that they can provide better and more accurate answers when it comes to, the AI search experience.
The initial posture of AI search is it's looking at those websites and it's kind of summarizing and giving you the answers. But as it's learning and developing, it's kind of falling back to those traditional SEO roots of figuring out the credibility, the authority, and those types of things. It seems like it's kind of leaning back towards SEO in general.
I don't know how they're going to get around it. I don't know how. I mean, there may be other ways that they can do it, but there's a fundamental issue with large language models, and it is that is a language technology, right? When you bring in retrieval augmented generation, now you have a smaller set of sources that it's looking at, so it should be more accurate. But there's nothing there that has is this true? Right? Like it's not designed to provide things that are factual. I should say that it doesn't have that ability to separate what's true versus what's not. It's all of what that data is dependent on. So like Google has the knowledge graph, right? The knowledge graph that has entities, people, places, and things, and then there are connections between those people, places, and things, companies, etc., all these different entities. So there is I hate to say understanding, but there is a web of context there about, hey, you are associated with this. Like when we look at linking structure in search engines, there are these highly, highly trusted kind of gold standard websites that sit in the middle that Google is like, oh, okay, these are gold source, highly trusted. And then your link networks, how far away do you sit from those things? So Google has a lot of different lenses it can look at, it can look through to understand what is trustworthy and what's not. And I feel like it just has a lot of different layers and ways to do that. Where with large language models, it is a large language model. So it understands language inside and out, and you can feed it tons and tons of documents, and it's going to spit something out. And then we can evaluate, hey, was that a good answer or is it not? Are we getting true? Are we getting false? But really, how do we get it? How do they build in those structures to be able to understand what's actually valid versus what's not? And it may be a whole new approach. I think some of it's going to come back to the same thing that it has with Google, which is established brands and that footprint, right? Things like reviews, where are you cited, where are you recommended, who knows you, who's talking about you. Do you have a so active social media, and a lot of people are engaging with you there, but they're going to have to figure out some of these trust factors, and it may be the big brands that lead the way and that have the easiest time navigating this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, one of the things that it made me think about is if it's having a hard time figuring out what's true and what's not, if you're using AI to create content, then the content it spits out for you can be suspicious, or you can be, not sure if that's going to be good content or not, if it's doing the same thing and spitting that back to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like the snake that starts to eat its own tail. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because that's a lot of people are using AI right now to create content, and they're spitting out a lot of content. But if you can't trust that, then that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, and then that may come back to how they're bringing in new training data, but it is the good data in, good data out, garbage in, garbage out is one of the things they're dealing with. And one of the big issues that we have, especially today, is that even as a society, we can't agree on what's true.
Yeah.
So how do you make it accurate if we can't even tell it what is accurate or what's true?
Is there an issue where AI could get to a point where it's just spitting out answers and enough people trust it? It doesn't have to link back to any reference sites.
Maybe. I think it's a dangerous place to be.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, the references, I think, are important today. The citations are important, so you know where those sources are coming to. I hope we don't get to a point where people are just willing to put it in and take the answer and just accept that as truth. Because I think people need to, it's more a philosophical thing, but I think people need to be questioning the information that they're giving, that they are being provided from technology. With Google, you have all the sources right there. So you're seeing it yourself, and you can decide whether or not you trust each one of those sources as you go through. But we're also in a spot where people want quick answers, and it is satisfying getting, guidance. And I think people are going to be willing to give up a lot to have that convenience. Whether or not they're going to get to the point where they don't even need the citations. Hey, maybe if you have a whole generation of people that start out that way, and it's just accepted, hey, this is where you can go to get information. But I think we need to fight that. The other issue that is more practical is, where are they getting that content? Where are they getting that training data? And those issues are very real. So that comes back to all of the publishers and journalists and all of the people that are creating this content that then a lot of these LLMs are being trained on. And some of this training data, like you can go in and look up training data, and there's training data that you can actually purchase out there, right? But when you're training on just like the World Wide Web and publicly available information, and if you're crawling, all these news sites, and then now people are just getting their news in a direct answer, and there's no traffic going to those sites. Now you've cut out the revenue. So there's a lot going on there. I know ChatGPT, OpenAI has a number of strategic, I don't know if it's strategic partnerships, but content partnerships with different news organizations and journalism. So OpenAI has a strategic content partnership with Time. This was back in June. So with the AP, Arizona State University, The Atlantic, Axel Springer, BuzzFeed, Financial Times, News Corp, Reddit, Salesforce, Sanofi, Upwork. So they are forming all of these strategic partnerships, which I think is smart because they're trying to get ahead of it. so that they have access to this content and they're not just going and taking it, so that they can really make friends with these content creators and media companies. But then that also raises other questions. Okay, well, is it going to be this like special club where if you've got a partnership, your content is now being raised in visibility, and if you don't, it doesn't, right? Like, are we going to go back to a pay to play, right? Where it's just advertising. Google had a kind of democratized information on the web because it's all open, and Google would go and crawl everything. And then depending on the value and how relevant you were, they would surface it in search. You didn't pay to be included in search. Maybe you paid SEO people to help you get higher, but just to be there and be crawled, you didn't have to pay. And there's something powerful about that everyone has access to that. If we go this other direction and we say, well, everyone's going to have access, but if you have a strategic content partnership, then you get all of these A, B, and C's, and then it turns into business deals. And now that's what's impacting what information we get. That's also concerning.